You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way, the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and one consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete Signal Transmission Trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all 3 books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.
This is Andy.
And this is Matt.
And you're listening to
The Hop Podcast with no name.
What a dumb name.
It's so stupid. Episode 54.
54.
No.
No?
It's not call and response. It's I start, and then I welcome you into the conversation when I'm ready.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So
let's try again.
No. It's already started. It's recording. That's how it works. You hit a button and it starts.
Oh, okay.
So now we just go.
Okay.
With
go.
The start of the episode, which is the recap of last. Come on. We've done this before, once or twice. I think this is, we said exactly how many times we've done this actually to start the episode.
54.
54 times. And this is a continuation, yes? We're building on a topic.
I think so.
And an
We're
idea.
just, we're out of ideas, so we just got to continue the old ideas.
We got to freestyle. Yep. We actually have a list for this one, though, which is upsetting to me.
I know. Yeah.
Structure.
We're just putting way too much work into this. It's better when we just didn't
we just
think
turn
about
it on
well.
and record and see what happens.
So our goal, if I remember correctly, is to continue our conversation about if you are in a senior leader space where you get to set strategy and you're trying to go in this hop direction, what does it look like when you have that level of influence and control? What have we learned from other organizations about how they tend to make this change? And
what a professional throat cough clear.
Could you hear it?
You barely, but I wanted the listener to know it happened in case they were like, what was that? It was you expertly moving away from the microphone.
Thank you.
And doing it so that no one would notice, and now everyone knows.
Did my best. So last episode we talked about, I think we were calling it step 2, which is really step 3 because there was a step 0, and then we put a whole bunch of pretend slides together.
Which you created in real life after the episode was done.
I did. I took some notes to see how accurate my bullet point comments were of this, which should be slide 4, bullet point 2. Fairly accurate, honestly, considering I was not looking at anything while I did it. So I wrote it out to take a look at it. And we had suggested that there were sort of 2 general options of how to proceed. Slide 3 was the beliefs conversation, no matter what. And then when we got to slide 4, you could do option 1, which was, hey, we're going to try to make this organizational change all at once. Or there was option 2, which was the pilot option. And we were going to come back and talk about the pilot option. Option 1, if you haven't listened to the past, I think is it 3 episodes, Matt? Past 3 episodes in this series.
Yeah.
Highly suggest that you do so, because if not, this conversation isn't going to make a ton of sense. But when we talked about making the change from a board level, right, we talked about this idea of triggering to the organization that we're going to make this change by actually physically changing a metric and then changing the expectations around that metric. But then we have to go give people the ability to execute to that metric, which requires a widespread beliefs conversation for the leaders that are going to have to be moving in this direction, with the ability for them to push back. It also requires physically giving people a skill set so they can execute the change you're asking them to, which is, in addition to the beliefs conversation, it's actually the ability to go operationally learn in order to make sure that we can have conversations that respect the complexity and the variability that actually exists within real work. And then from there, now we're going to ask people to go do something differently and build that into our management system. So we're going to take something and we're going to adjust it. And
I want to stop you there.
Yes.
Because I'm hearing sort of 2 parts of the do differently, and I know that for us it's a little bit more segmented than that.
Yeah.
Which is do differently. The first one was teaching people how to operationally learn, but also do differently, sort of maybe at a systems level, is looking at maybe something like audits or post-event learning, and changing that system. So there's 2 parts to doing differently. One is upskilling people to operationally learn, and then that is they're going to go and learn differently. And then the other part's a system change, which we're going to go and change the way we look at certain metrics.
Yes, really well said, because the do differently, we want people to individually have the ability and the practice of doing something differently, which doesn't have to be prescribed, meaning you can operationally learn at a team level or a facility level or a service group level about anything that you want to. But then once we have all these folks that have that skill set, well, how do we all move in chorus with each other? Like how do we then take that skill set and at an organizational level make organizational systems change? And that's that second part that you said of, hey, we're actually going to change our management systems so that we're all swimming in the same direction with this skill set that we have that we can use whenever we want, but certainly we want to use it in these places. And we gave a few suggestions of what those places could be.
Spoken like a true flautist / acapella group person. They got to move in chorus.
In
precisely.
concert with each other, right? In harmony.
And I called this out a couple times ago, and this is really all about me. So I'll keep the focus on me.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's Matt Florio's Hot Podcast with No Name with Andrea. Sometimes it's the idea that we talk about the beliefs conversation change at the senior level. And then we talked about upskilling people to operationally learn. I don't want it to seem as if, hey, as a senior leader, I changed my belief, so now I'm going to go and just make someone do operational learning. They also need the exposure to the foundations of why they would learn differently, not just how to learn differently. Just want to call it out because we hear it all the time. All the time. We're ready for operational learning. We need these people to go and learn how to do it, teach them. Teach them how to just do it, and it's not how it works.
Yeah, and the reason that's not how it works is because operational learning itself, like the structure of operational learning, isn't fancy. There's nothing special about it. It's the mindset that you bring to the table, and that mindset includes recognizing and respecting the fallibility of humanity, recognizing and respecting complexity, recognizing and respecting that even if we just write down this rule, thou shalt follow it at all times, that's not the reality that oftentimes people are in or facing or how things actually go. And until you wrestle with being able to accept reality, then it's not possible to operationally learn well, because you sort of get surprised by it, right? You get confronted by the fact that people, made an error, or they weren't following a process. And when you're confronted by it, you have a really hard time asking the next best question, right? Like when you are surprised by the reality of, hey, this is a lot messier, and I really don't like that this is happening. You start to have that fundamental attribution error where the people you're talking to, you turn them into the enemy, and then it's really hard to ask the right questions because they should just do better, right? Like they should not have these bad things happening. So yeah, absolutely. Well called out. Again, that's 2 for 2, Matt.
Well, no matter what happens to the rest of this episode, it's getting released. This is getting released. That's happening.
I don't have my timer on, so I have no idea how long we've been, by the way. Just
8 minutes.
All right, good. 8 minutes, and we've talked about nothing new.
No, we've done nothing.
Nailed it. All right, so we are now going to go back and talk about this concept from not thinking about it as a full organizational change. The reason why it can be helpful to not try to change an entire organization at once is, one, it's a big shift, and it's hard to do just in general. If you make too much change too quickly for any organization of people, they can feel very unstable. They can feel like the rug's been pulled out from under them, like they don't have faith in a leadership team because it feels like a very dramatic and drastic change to what we've been doing before. There's almost a sense of, well, why tell me now? We've been doing it for this many years before, and it was good enough then, so why is it different? And you start to feel quite defensive. And then the other thing is the time scale that we talked about, right? We mentioned at the end of last episode, 2 years is not unusual to sort of just get set to be ready to execute a different type of management system. And so that means that you would need 2 years of consistent leadership moving in this direction in order to start to see tangible change that was easier to point to than just anecdotal stories. And that's a long time. I mean, in most organizations, you might not have steady leadership for 2 years.
Yeah.
And so to make change and let it stick for that long on that time scale with that many people, it's a really tough lift. And so some organizations do it. Some organizations do it sort of by smaller region so that it kind of feels like a smaller company. But really big places, really big organizations, I can only think of a couple of them that have tried to do it organizationally wide at the same time. Most choose to do it sort of by this, we can call it the pilot method or maybe the maturity method, and we'll talk about what that is. We're making up terminology, by the way. There is no set actual terminology.
Yeah, I just have a pros and cons list on my notepad, so there's nothing that says pilot or maturity, but I think it's a good way to describe it, and we'll give it some legs to stand on.
So this is when you have, so this is slide 4, option 2. And whereas with option 1, sort of the first group of people you're trying to convince is the board and trying to change a metric. Now let's shift our thought to, hey, you're a senior leader. You think this is the right thing to do. Now you have to go find some advocates that are usually below you in the organization, could be your peers, but usually at a level that might be, picture like a site manager or a services team leader. And you're trying to find advocates there as opposed to trying to convince the board. And it's the same type of conversation. It is the why, it's the beliefs conversation. It's having people understand why your thought process has changed. It's showing them, the same studies about the discrepancy between what it looks like with recordability versus what it looks like for the potential of fatalities. And it is finding some individuals that they also agree they want to make the change, and maybe most importantly is the they are willing to go deep in the thought process just like you did in order to make the change. Because in order to lead this at a pilot level without the support of the entire organization, as an individual, it is dramatically harder. Meaning you're now like this tiny group within a sea of other people that are going to be thinking, we'll call it the traditional way or, the historical way. And you're trying to make change and almost create a bubble of change around either the services team or this physical location. And that is harder. You can get faster results.
Sure.
But it is absolutely much harder because nothing in terms of management systems or the metric that you are measured to as a leader, that hasn't changed yet. And so you're doing this all in an uphill battle with many different barriers of organizational pressure that is not going to be in the same place as where you're focusing your attention. I'm pausing here for dramatic effect and also in case, Matt, there's a follow-up question or thought that you have, which the answer can be no. I just, you were looking at me with a just this really thoughtful expression. And I thought for a moment I should just shut my mouth.
Yeah, I was just so impressed with everything you said. I've never heard it before. So it's really engaging for me. No, I think it's true. Air cover, right? I think is the term we hear often. Mm-hmm. If you're in a senior leadership position and you're going to try something different and it may be, tangential to what you're already doing. It may be the opposite direction if we think about how we respond to an event or how we learn or how we do our audits. And a lot of that can fall on that leader's shoulders and they have to be prepared for that. And that's where I think another important part of that beliefs conversation is when you get it into that core level, into your core level as a senior leader, you can communicate it well up and down.
Yeah.
Right. So you can say, hey, this is why we're doing it. This is what I suspect we're going to see. And this is what I think is right. Here's why. Mm-hmm. I think it's a really important part to have and can provide the air cover up and down.
Now, the steps after this, after finding these individuals, and honestly, the way we often suggest finding them is you have a foundations class for that group within the organization, and then they kind of self-identify of like, hey, this is what I think we should be doing. Absolutely, we should be going in this direction, and you can find the passionate individuals, and then for them, so now picture this passionate individual. And I'm just going to use the structure of a plant manager to make it simple in discussion. So you have a plant manager and you have folks that are working for this plant manager. That plant is going to be your pilot. And everything else that we talked about from last episode, I think we'll go through it, but is accurate in terms of what the next steps are. It's just at a much smaller scale. So you would still want to be able to have a different measurement at the site level. The difficulty is that measurement is going to be different than, for example, your corporate measurement. So you're going to have to decide what the measurement looks like. It can be in the same space. Once again, we suggest a proactive and a reactive metric. So proactively understanding places where, catastrophic failure can happen. It doesn't have to be just in the safety space though. So now picture the amount of flexibility you have at a site level, because you're not trying to change the management system for an entire organization. You're changing your execution of a portion of management systems, which could be across multiple different disciplines, not just within the safety space. So you as the plant manager could choose, hey, we're actually instead going to be focusing in the quality space because that's my burning platform. And I feel like I have a little bit more freedom in this area, perhaps, to make change. And so I'm going to be looking at proactive and reactive. Example in the quality space of proactive and reactive. Let's look proactively at places where we know if we have failure in this part of the process, we're going to have the equivalent of a catastrophic failure, which you might draw a line in the sand of, hey, that's a quality escape that gets to the customer, for example. Or, you could be looking at it from the reactive side. Would suggest and or the reactive side is when you do have either an internal issue on the quality side or you have something happening on the audit side where you've already said we have this discrepancy between whatever our characteristics were that we were measuring versus what is actually coming out in the product, right? That we could take a look at that, and it's in the same way we would be looking at how an injury occurred and looking at the health of the system. You're now looking at the health of the system, except you're looking at the quality aspect of it. So,
question for you.
What'd you say?
Question for you.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
How does that play up?
Say more.
No. Yeah. So I'm doing this and I'm looking at quality and I'm taking a different approach, but I'm still beholden to what the organization expects of me.
Absolutely.
So what's the plan? How do I live in both worlds? Do I just say, hey, my boss, give me 6 months to try this. I'll give you a bunch of information and we'll see if it works. Or do you say, hey, I kind of know I need to still check off the old boxes, but we're going to do this in tandem to it? What's the strategy here?
Yeah.
He said, knowing the answer.
I mean, I think it depends upon the maturity of the quality systems within the organization. So either you're kind of starting in the same place as most folks are in the safety space, which means you are desperately trying to live in two different worlds, meaning that the solution sets that people are often looking at from either an audit or from if you've got a customer complaint or you've got any sort of quality defect, that the solution sets are so ingrained in what we've done in the past, right? We're going to write the person up. We're going to change the procedure. It's like a carbon copy of the same thing that we see in the safety space. Then you do have to live in two different worlds in the same way that you would in the safety space if you're at this pilot level, which is, hey, I am going to after either do both, which in some cases you do, meaning if we're thinking about an investigation, I have to fill out all the old paperwork. I have to have all the old phone calls that I normally have. And I have to take some of the actions I normally would. Maybe I downplay a few of them or I don't take as many in that sort of old playbook. But then I'm also going to have to be able to talk to the systems piece of this. I'm going to have to be able to talk to the fact that we created a current state value stream map and there's a lot of variability that we're looking at. And I'm going to be able to tell that story quite well, but I am squarely living in two different worlds of the old expectations and the new thing that I'm trying to do. If you have a more mature thought process in terms of the idea that, quality defects are the ingredients for them are part of the system in the same way that the ingredients in the safety side, right? Tomorrow's really bad quality escape, the ingredients for that already live in how the work is being done today. Well, then you can lean on some of the tools that have existed previously in the quality space that many of them never reached the safety space, right? You can lean on the verbiage in the lean area and quality management within the lean space that you have a bit of language for that is difficult to apply directly into the safety space. But I would say my guess would be, for the most part, for most organizations, whether you're on the quality side of the house or the safety side of the house or just the operational upset aspect, you are absolutely squarely living in two different worlds with two different sets of expectations, which is why it's so hard to pilot this at a smaller scale, but you can move much faster if you have a leader who is prepared to take on those conversations, who is prepared to talk about this belief system and explain the difference in approach every time they're faced with a question about the difference in approach. That was the longest answer to your question I could have come up with.
Yeah, I'm glad though, because it almost ended the podcast with how long it was. There's another part, I think, to the doing both. It really helps generate some excellent internal stories and some compare and contrast. Hey, here's what we traditionally would have done versus here what we're going to do and try to do, and then we'll have some time to see how those outcomes play out and give A versus B in terms of what we did and how it worked, which is how in a lot of ways it spreads in an organization, right? Is you get your own stories. They have meaning to you and to the people you work with, and then they become impactful. And people say, "Well, I want that. I want to try that. That looks good. That looks tasty." And I'm hungry. I didn't eat breakfast, but that's where it goes. So just wanted to call it out. It was in my pro list. I had your
pro and con list for pilot versus pilot versus whole organization. So let me just try to put a bit of a bow on this thought process.
Okay.
If we are changing at a site level, that doesn't mean we don't change the metric that we are encouraging our people to work towards. It just means it's probably not the thing that's going to be tied to your bonus, and it's probably not the thing that's going to be tied to the overall corporate structure either. The second part of what we actually physically have to execute is going to be the same, right? You still have to have the beliefs conversation with the folks that are reporting to that plant manager, and you still have to find a subset of people that after having that beliefs conversation want to take the extra step to be able to operationally learn. And then the other piece is you still want to be able to use those folks in concert with each other, right? So give them a chance to practice operationally learning, just find opportunities to go learn, to understand what's happening in a process. But you can still be quite strategic with your deployment, right? And you can have sort of one-off times that you'd be operationally learning, but you can also encourage difference in approaches in your internal rhythms of your management system, whether that be baking this into how we do Gemba walks, or we're going to bake in operational learning to how we as a site are going to respond to quality upsets or safety events, or we're going to bake in operational learning into how we are going to proactively learn about high-risk activities. Those are the types of things that at a site level, you can kind of just choose where you want to learn it, create a strategy for the year and execute to that strategy, knowing though that the biggest problem is that it is not going to align with the overall organizational strategy. And that is where the rub comes in terms of trying to do this as a pilot. So if you are the senior leader then trying to enable these plant managers to do this pilot, we have to create some amount of air cover for them, right? There has to be some sort of, hey, we are going to operate differently here, and we're going to do it for X amount of time, and we're going to see what happens in order to make sure that folks don't feel like they have to aggressively live in two different worlds, right? That we can give them a little bit of breathing room where they can try to put more of their attention and time into the pilot aspect of it and a little bit less into the historical piece.
And I would just say that if you're the senior leader, and I cut you off on purpose. No. Being able to articulate why we're making this change and we're not lowering our standards in making it. I think that's a very important piece in communicating why we're trying something differently, because you and I have been in rooms where it sounds like
we have been in rooms.
We've been in rooms. I had to clear my throat.
You did it quite professionally.
No, I didn't. I didn't. Where people often hear what we're not saying. And it sounds like we're saying lower expectations of everybody.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to have that conversation directly when trying hop.
Yeah.
You could take over because I'm going to start coughing.
Especially because now you're in the face of a sea of people having not been introduced to this specific thought process. And so you are actually, you're on an island of belief at that point in time. And that becomes much harder, right? You end up inadvertently, as one of these advocates or the senior leader that's advocating for it, you end up inadvertently also having to continuously teach this subject to those around you in order to justify the actions that you're taking. That said, if you go the pilot route, there's definitely the pros of you can move faster, and that you are creating the baseline narrative, stories, and data needed to be able to then eventually do whatever option one looks like for you, which we summarize that as bringing it to the board. And the folks that have had the most success in bringing information to the board are the ones that are telling stories about how it's actually making change at physical locations already. Those are the folks that they seem to have less difficulty in making that change with a group of people that perhaps have not been exposed to this thought process before. So it's sort of option 2 actually becomes your lead in to option 1 if you want to go in that direction.
Which, yeah, I think this was a mini series, which you hate that phrase, but I like it, about senior leaders and what they can do. But I think it ends up going back to the idea that even at an individual site, you can make a lot of change and be able to help an organization shift at a macro level because of your stories.
Yeah. All right.
That's
what's the time, Matt? I don't know what time.
It's way past. Our expositions are just getting longer and longer. But that's it. Hopefully you put a nice bow on it. It is a well-wrapped present. I wouldn't know what that looks like because I cannot do that. So thank you everyone for listening, and we'll talk again soon.
Well, that's it.
Yep, another one in the books. We did it.
If you want to send us any of your thoughts, actually fling us any of your thoughts, you can do so at the website www.hoppodcast.com.
That's HOPPODCAST.com.
It's still such a stupid name.
It's such a different name. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for listening.
You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way, the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and 1 consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete Signal Transmission Trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all 3 books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.